And joining us now to talk more about what's happening in Washington and what the implications mean for debt ceiling talks is Andrew Friedman. He is the principal at the Washington Update. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Were you all at all encouraged by the speaker's indication that he would not let the United States default? I mean, does that give you the indication that there is some movement and there is some progress on the Hill?
I don't know that it means there's any progress, but I am heartened by it nonetheless. And I've been saying I don't think that we will see a default here. The House of Representatives is an unusual place. The Speaker entirely controls what sort of legislation is introduced in front of the House. Normally, the Speaker does not introduce legislation unless a majority of his party wants that legislation introduced. That's why he has been going ahead and having these Obamacare caveats on what's been introduced so far. But I think what the subtext of what happened today was he was saying, look, if we really get to the point where we're on the cusp of defaulting on the debt, I'll introduce legislation that raises the debt limit, and if necessary, we'll pass that with all the Democrats and some moderate Republicans supporting it, and that will alleviate the problem.
Andrew, I wonder what you think of this. Some people have been saying today that all of this very sharp language about the potential of catastrophic consequences if there is a default, and that this could become the worst recession is all part of a strategy to get the markets to sell off, because that would trigger the Congress to take action and close up the deal on this. Do you buy into that?
Well, I don't know if it's that specific, but I think the president is absolutely ratcheting up the rhetoric. Look, I think the Republicans feel a bit cornered now. They demanded changes to Obamacare. That's a non-starter with the Democrats. There's plenty of things that can be negotiated, but that is not one of them. And so for the president to say, look, there's a problem here and you have to deal with it or we're going to have a catastrophic problem, throws it back into Boehner's court. What does Boehner's office indicate? Don't worry, we'll take care of it. We're not going to let anybody default on the debt. So I think it's absolutely a case that the president's ratcheting up the consequences, putting pressure on Boehner. Boehner's trying to hold off those consequences.
But what about the crisis of confidence that Main Street seems to be entering into, about the fact that once again we're being taken to the brink, regardless of what party you're talking about, the fact that it seems that they are willing to take the U.S. economy all the way to the fiscal cliff once again, and that Main Street is starting to suffer from that?
There's no question. I mean, mainstream has been suffering all along. Just go back to the fiscal cliff. You were right to allude to it. That was a midnight deal, and that only passed Congress because Boehner, in fact, introduced legislation that was passed by the Democrats and a few of the Republicans. The bulk of Republicans didn't want it. I think that there is a brinksmanship going on here, and I think it relates to the fact that the Republicans feel, in the House at least, that going into an election year, they don't have to worry about the general election because their districts are largely Republican. They have to worry about the primaries. They don't want to be challenged by somebody further on the right. And so everybody pretty much who's a Republican in the House is trying to protect his flank in that way.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.